You know how the US is responsible for Russia getting an atomic bomb as soon as they did? Yeah, most people didn't know that, but we are. Oops. There's this guy named George Koval, and he was born in the United States in Sioux Falls, Iowa in 1913. He was born to immigrant parents. Now, it is important to note his parents are Russian immigrants, specifically Jewish Russian immigrants. They fled from Russia during the anti-Semitic views that were going on with the Tsar and his family. So they got out of here. So George went to Central Hill High School in Iowa, and it was very commonly known that he would talk about his communist beliefs very openly. He had very much embraced communism, and yeah. So he graduated high school in 1929 when he was 15 years old. So obviously he's already a really smart guy. Got out relatively early. You know what else is going on around 1929? The Great Depression. So the Great Depression hits, his family moves back to Russia. The family moves to the Jewish Autonomous Region back in Russia. Now, it is very important to note, his family left with a family passport. So there's just the Koval family, not specifying who's on it. This is how he was able to come back and make it look like he had never left the US later. While he was in Russia, he then attended the Mendeleev Institution, where he really showed he was very smart. He learned a lot about chemical engineering and technology and stuff like that, and lots and lots and lots of science. Around this time, he gets recruited by what's called the GRU, which is basically just Soviet intelligence agency. They want him to go to the US and go work as a spy and start getting information on what the US is doing in this time. This is the beginning of World War II, right? So at that point in time, Russia was still working with Germany when he had gotten recruited. Then Germany invaded Russia, and obviously that went out the window. So good old buddy George comes back to the US in 1940. He's working under the codename Delmar. He ends up in New York City, and he's working for the Raven Electric Company, which is a cover for all of the Russian spies that are in New York City at that time. Right around when George had come back to the US and was he went to Columbia University. He was getting really smart and was learning from the people that were then going to be taken to make the atomic bomb. That's when Congress reintroduces the draft, okay? George manages to get a deferment for a year because the Russian government obviously is like, well, if you're getting drafted by the US, you can't get us any information. So we're going to find a way to get you a deferment. And then he goes in 1941. When he goes in 1941, he gets drafted, does his basic training, and then he gets taken into a special unit that's basically like, these are our very smart people. We need to make sure that they don't die so we can use their smartness. Once he gets picked out of there, they take this group and they send them to the City College of New York City. So he's just in school for a really long time. Little does he know, but he is working on the Manhattan Project. Once he gets brought onto the Manhattan Project, he gets brought down to Oak Ridge, Tennessee at the laboratory that was down there. He is then given the rank of a health physics officer. So his job is to make sure that everyone that is working on this is okay, which gives him extremely high security clearance. So we really just opened the door for him to go get all of the information that he could to give to the Russians. While he was working here, he had figured out that the polonium that was being used for the atomic bomb was then being sent to Los Alamos, which is obviously where Oppenheimer is and where a lot of the boom stuff happens. He is then transferred to another top secret lab in Dayton, Ohio, about 3 months before the first atomic bomb gets dropped in Japan. So he is right at the center of all of this going on. Now, if you ask the CIA, the Russians did not get their bomb until 1950-1953. In reality, the Soviet Union detonated a bomb in 1949, and that would not have happened without a one George Koval. We gave the Russians the atomic bomb. After World War II, Koval goes back to New York City. He's still at City College of New York. He gets his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. I don't know how many degrees this guy has at this point, but he's been in school for what seems like forever. He's got this girlfriend that he's like super serious about. Also important to note, he had a wife back in Russia before he left. He's super serious about this girlfriend. The girlfriend thinks that they're super serious because she doesn't know that he's a Russian spy and has a wife and family at home. So he tells his friends, hey, I'm going to go on a European vacation. I just finished my degree. This is great. Poof. And then he never comes back to the United States. Goes back to Russia, gets discharged from the military where they gave him the rank of a private. They had him listed as the rank of a private and an untrained rifleman, which is very suspicious when if anyone were to pull the records. But they don't want to say Soviet spy. Later, he actually went back to the Mendeleev Institute where he was a laboratory assistant, and then he ended up getting to be a teacher at the institute that he started at back in Russia. He managed to not get caught and charged for anything. The only way that this really started to come about was in 99. He had been living in Russia, chilling, just existing, when he had heard that World War II veterans could apply for Social Security benefits in the U.S. And he was like, well, I'm technically a U.S. World War II veteran. Let me see if I can get some Social Security benefits. And in true American fashion, he gets a letter from the Social Security Administration. Just all it says, verbatim, we are writing to tell you that you do not qualify for retirement benefits. And that's it. Koval described his life as pretty uneventful after World War II, which I would hope so. It was very eventful up until that point. He later died in Moscow in 2006, so he lived a pretty long life. In 2007, he was posthumously given the award of Hero of Russian Federation by Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin said, we would not have this atomic bomb without Mr. Koval. So, we gave George Koval all of the knowledge and information to go give the Russians an atomic bomb. Yeah, no, that's all really interesting. And you can read a lot more about this in the book. It's called Sleeper Agent, The Atomic Spy That Got Away. It's a really good book and really interesting story, and it's also kind of makes you wonder a lot of other things. That's a story of how we taught a Russian how to make an atomic bomb. And that was another episode of History Briefed. If you like more interesting stories and things that you probably don't know about, go ahead, subscribe, like, share this video, all of the things, turn on post notifications, all the things, and I'll see you later.